Hey there, welcome. It is so good to have you with me today. I'm excited to share this information with you. Just a reminder for you, if you're going to watch the replay or if you are watching this on the replay when it's posted, to take a moment to like the video, share it, drop a comment, subscribe to my channel. All of those things help to make my channel more visible, and I really appreciate your help with that. And I know you know someone else who's interested in iridology, right? So go ahead and share the video with them so that they can get the same information you're getting. Alrighty, so today we are talking about iridology and hormones, and specifically we're going to talk about the polyglandular subtype. There are several different types of indicators in the irides that can give us information about hormones, but we're going to narrow it down today to just the polyglandular subtype. If you've been with me for the last few weeks, we've been really focusing on how to do an iridology assessment. So the very first thing we look for is the constitution, the basic foundational constitution. Then we want to look for the constitutional subtypes. And then we are doing the structural subtypes. So the polyglandular subtype is one of these structural subtypes. When we are doing an iris assessment, we always want to correlate the client's health goals, what their problems are now, what they want help with right now, with what we see in the eyes, with their diet and their lifestyle. That's all got to be a part of the package if we are going to do an effective iris assessment. Without any one of those, we are not going to be getting the information we need or giving the value we need to give. And without that base, without the base of the constitution and the different kinds of subtypes and what the client wants help with and what their diet and lifestyle are like, identifying any other markers is pretty much of no value. So we want to make sure that we're always giving best value and that our value is focused on what the client's needs are, not what we want to tell them, right? Because we can tell them lots when we've got good iridology training. We can give them so much information that we can overwhelm them from now until next week, right? We really can. Instead, we want to focus. So the base of the constitution and the various subtypes, again, give us an understanding of the client's inherent chemistry. So in this case that we're talking about today with the polyglandular subtype, it can give us insight into a layer of information about the hormones. So it gives us context with which to assess the client's symptoms and with which to ask more questions and with which to make good recommendations. So we want, and that's what we want to do, right? Do you agree with me that what we want to do is give our client valuable information that they can work with? While you're giving me a yes or a no in the comments box, just say hello as well. Let's make sure you know where that comments box is and let me know that you are not falling asleep on me. Thank you. Fantastic. So yeah, you're saying yes. So good. So good. So good. It's so good to see some familiar names and to see some students in the group. This is great. So I'm glad you're with me. We have here 4 different eyes. All of these eyes are blue. As we look at them, what you will see is that the way the fiber is sitting in the iris, the way the threads are sitting in these eyes is very different from one to another. And today our focus again is going to be the polyglandular subtype. We're going to look at lots of eyes of clients that have the polyglandular subtype. And you're going to see how one marking or one subtype does not mean the same thing for every client. But there is that common theme with the polyglandular subtype, and that is their predisposition towards hormonal imbalances of all kinds. So we'll dive right in, and then I'm going to take a moment to introduce myself for any of you who are new to me. Again, we're just going to be skimming the very surface, and we're only going to deal with the one structural subtype of polyglandular today. This is actually a part of the information, a part of the training in the 3rd module of the dynamic iridology course. Of course, we go a lot deeper in the actual course, but today we're going to give you that good little introduction. This is a young woman. She's in her late teens. She was in her late teens when we took these photographs. Her right eye and her left eye. So it's like we're sitting looking at her face to face. Now, she is polyglandular. She's got that polyglandular constitution, which means she's got at least 3 moderate to large lacunae attached to the collarette. Now that could be 3 in total. She might have 2 in one eye and 1 in the other eye. In her case, she's got lots. There's no question that she is the polyglandular subtype because of all of these lacunae that are attached to the collarette. Now, here's her history. She has dysmenorrhea, so she's got very painful periods, and these painful periods are debilitating, truly debilitating. She started her menses when she was 16. Her average cycles range from 35 to 60 days, so there's no average. They're all over the map. The cramps will last for 4 days before her flow starts, and then again for 4 days during the flow. So she is cramping for 8 days out of every month and doubled over on pain meds cramping. What all of this tells me is the fact that she's got these horrendous periods, but more the fact that her cycles can be up to 60 days apart tells me that she may be in the early stages of polycystic ovarian syndrome. She finds that she has to eat very frequently when she is having these serious cramps, and she uses naproxen. It's a very heavy medication, Tylenol and Advil, but they aren't working anymore. They used to work when she was younger, but nothing is working anymore. She has a lot of food sensitivities. She has to avoid all dairy and gluten and fatty foods. Now, the food sensitivities really are the dairy and the gluten, but the fatty foods give her diarrhea. Okay, so if you've got your anatomy and physiology under your belt and you understand symptomatology and things like that, and maybe you've got a nutrition background, I hope your brain is starting to go and starting to pull ideas together, because her history gives us information, but as we get into her eyes, they give us information too. So what we see here with her, okay, if we think that she's heading into PCOS, we know that with that, we need to work with liver, we need to work with foods. Now, she doesn't have much refined carb in her diet at all. And with some women who have PCOS, that doesn't matter. We need to get the diet to be high protein, and somehow we need to get her to be able to handle fatty foods, because she's going to need those for some other metabolic processes. So the first thing that we did with her was we suggested increasing the number and the size of protein servings every day, and reducing any carbs that she was doing. With being gluten sensitive, she was doing a lot of gluten-free, which can sometimes be a little higher carb. So when we see these loops, these lacunae sitting attached to the collarette, that tells us right up front that she is prone to hormonal imbalances. Now, we don't know until we ask her questions whether we're talking reproductive hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, or whether we're talking thyroid, or whether we're talking LH, FSH, whether we're talking the adrenal hormones with cortisol and with norepinephrine and epinephrine. We don't know which hormones are out of balance. And so we do need to ask questions. I also recommended that we needed to get a mineral supplement into her. She was so afraid to eat. So many foods were causing issues for her gut that we needed to get in there and just start pumping some nutrient in, if not calories, at least nutrient. And we also introduced a herbal formula for her to help her with her menstrual issues, something to help kind of soften and even out her hormones. Also got her to do some omega-3. Now that was a little bit tricky because of course your omegas are fat-based. We didn't want to induce diarrhea, but we needed to get omegas in, and we needed some D3 in there as well. It took her a few cycles for everything to start accumulating some changes in her body. But she eventually, after 3 or 4 cycles, she settled down to where her cycles were about 5 weeks, which means we have backed her away from PCOS, and the cramping was reduced to 1 to 2 days moderately. So simply by understanding what her eyes are telling us, that, yeah, she's really predisposed to hormonal imbalances, helped us to then understand, when we layered that with the length of her cycles, that we really needed to be doing things to help with the hormones. And for her, it was proteins and fats that she needed, and to reduce somewhat any carbs that she was getting. Yeah, Charlotte says, poor gal. Poor gal is right. Poor gal is right. I have a belief that women are not meant to suffer with their cycles. I don't believe women should experience hot flashes and discomforts with menopause. I don't believe they should have cramping or flooding or problems when they're having their periods. And so when I have a client who comes in with a story like this, I know we need to get to the root of it. And I know that with sound nutrition, we can totally reverse those symptoms. We need nutrition, we need physical activity, we need sunshine, we need adequate sleep, sometimes we need some help with changing how we're thinking about things, multifaceted approach. But we got her to where she was doing pretty well. She actually was feeling well enough that she was able to enroll in college, which was pretty exciting. So I want to share with you this. This is something that you're going to see a lot on the internet. These are actually the same eye. Does that surprise anybody here? But those are the same eye. When you look at those eyes, what is responsible for the change in color from these two especially to this one? What is responsible for the change in color? What's your very best guess here? Charlotte says lighting. Lighting and camera. Yeah, you're good. You're good. Lighting and camera, very good. The tech is what has changed here. The tech. So different camera entirely from, this was a 24 megapixel, but this was a newer 24 megapixel, if I remember right. Ooh, forgetting which cameras I had and when. But this is clearly an incandescent ring flash. This is an LED flash. This is definitely my 24 megapixel. This might have even been my 8 megapixel. Who knows? At any rate, different camera, different lighting will totally change things. You will see people online who will post an image like the one on the left and an image on like the one on the right, and they will claim that this is the result of cleansing. They took my magic formula. Look at the difference. Look at how bright and vibrant these fibers are. Look at the change in the shape of these lacunae. They are healing. No, we just changed the lighting. This lacuna will always be a lacuna. Think of this as a balloon. It will always hold the same value or the same volume of air. All that has changed is the size of the pupil. And as the size of the pupil changed because of the intensity of the light, in this case, that is going to stretch these fibers out. And that is going to make this look like this instead. All right. So you're absolutely right that this is the result. This is the same girl we were looking at, just the same woman we were looking at just a moment ago, just different cameras. All right, let's move on. Here we have another woman. She is in her mid 60s. I want you to remember that polyglandular shows a predisposition to hormonal imbalances. This can include insulin and cortisol. I also want you to remember, as we're doing this, that polyglandular people often have a very deep creative streak. Sometimes accessing that is a significant part of their healing. So this is a woman, again, she's mid-60s. She has a history of depression. She's very health conscious, but her weight has crept up and she's feeling very lethargic. She is a vegan and a very strict vegan. She has a sedentary lifestyle. She has had much stress in her life, including recently. Now, one of our challenges with vegans is most of their proteins are very high carbohydrate. They may be complex carbohydrate, but they have a problem getting enough protein density. Charlotte, you are absolutely right. Protein is a problem for them. And so we needed to find a way to bump up her protein using vegan sources. Not easily done, but we also needed to support her protein digestion because she's got indications here that genetically she will not digest proteins well. She needs the protein. So we chatted about how could she get more protein. She was not willing to consider going pescatarian. She was not even willing to consider using a chlorella or a spirulina supplement. And being vegan, she's not willing to use dairy products for her protein. She's so strict, she won't even use honey. So very challenging. So we had to brainstorm. I had to get her to give me ideas because I was fresh out of ideas, totally. But as she was going to be working on that, I knew we needed to help her break the proteins down. So we used what I would call here in Canada protein digestive aid. In the US, it's called PDA. It's from Nature's Sunshine Products. And we encouraged her to go for a walk every day, right? Midlife, or she's a senior citizen, an early senior citizen. She's gaining weight. As a vegan, she's eating a lot of carbs. So we've got to start countering that however we have to. And one of the things is to get her to be physically active. Walking was good. So had to ask her the question then, what does she do for creativity? Well, nothing. She's been too stressed. She's been too busy. So I asked her instead, you have to ask better questions, right? Iridology makes you ask good questions. So I asked her, okay, if you haven't been doing anything, what would you like to do? And she said, oh, I really like drawing nature pictures. Cool. So I suggested, or I asked her, where would you go for walks? Now that I'm suggesting you need to go for a walk every day, where would you go? Oh, well, I've just moved to a new place, and right behind my house, there's a pathway that runs along the river, and it's just beautiful. I said, great. That is wonderful that it's so accessible and that you think it's so beautiful. So, homework for you. I want you to go and get a pocket-sized sketch pad and whatever tool you want to draw with. If you want pencils or pencil crayons or wax crayons or pen and ink, whatever you want, get the right kind of notepad for the right kind of, get your little drawing thing, but just small so you can carry it easily. And when you go for your walks, I want you to find something to draw. I said, I'm not going to be a judge here. I don't even want to see it. You don't have to show it to anybody. This is for you. I said, what do you want to draw there? She said, well, I like to draw little things. I said, so what's an example of a little thing? And she said, well, when you're walking slowly and really pondering while you're walking, you see the tiniest flowers. I want to draw tiny flowers. Fantastic. That was so good. So we got her walking, tried to get her walking some of the walk kind of fast because we want it to be exercise. But I said, when you see something that you want to draw, stop. Take a few minutes, do a little sketch or a little drawing. And when you're ready to go, continue on. She fell so in love with that. A couple months later, we had a follow-up session. And she said she just loves the walking and the drawing. Because she'd moved to a new town, she was living in this new neighborhood. She was finding that the walking and the drawing was helping her to feel anchored in her community. And she finds that now she is craving the drawing and it's making her get out of the house to go for a walk. That means her energy is starting to improve, right? We love or we know that being physically active helps to generate energy, right? And that's what we needed to do. And Charlotte is saying, I love how you think. Mindfulness. Yes, yes. Iridology teaches us about physical. On another level, it can teach us about emotional as well. But with our own life experiences, we can find the emotional with our clients. Again, by asking them, the right questions. And the right questions, there's no book of right questions. These are the right questions you need to ask your client. Nothing like that. It's the question that you feel prompted to ask in this moment. That is the right question. As practitioners, and I love what you said here, Charlotte, about being mindful. As practitioners, we need to be very mindful when we are with our clients, right? That's how we get to the root of problems. Here's another client. Now, my clientele is 90% female. This is one of my few male clients, and that's just who I attract, and I'm perfectly good with that. So this fellow came in, he's in his early 50s, he's 5'8", weighs 170 pounds, and he's an aircraft mechanic. Now, you'll notice that he has 3 moderate to large lacunae attached to his collarette. So he fits into this polyglandular category. His primary complaint is that he started developing eczema about 10 years ago. And at that point in time, it was traced to his hockey equipment. All right, so these guys that play recreational hockey in sort of the old timers leagues, right? And they're doing it for fun, sort of. They're sort of serious. But their hockey equipment, all their pads and all their clothes, it doesn't get cleaned very often. Who are we kidding? Right? It's expensive to take it to a hockey equipment or a sports equipment cleaner. So it gets cleaned occasionally. Probably gets cleaned when the wife says that stuff reeks, you're not bringing it into the house, right? And so he found that he was breaking out an eczema exactly where, first off, where the hockey equipment was touching him, and that it has spread to his hands, his legs, his thighs, his torso, his arms, his ears, everywhere. Now, he has an active lifestyle, and he finally gave up hockey because he realized that the fungus, the garbage that was embedded in his hockey equipment was not serving him well. But he is polyglandular. So we want to look at this from a slightly different perspective. Yes, we see that his skin does want to have some challenges here. When we look at where the lacunae are placed, for him, one of them, this one in particular, suggests an increased risk of pancreas imbalance. Now, pancreas and liver have to play together. He has a touch of liver coloring in his irides, liver pigment in his irides. I want you to think about what he does for work. He's an airline mechanic. He is constantly exposed to solvents and cleaning agents and hydraulic fluids and coolants and fuels. He wears as much protective gear as he can, but there's occasions where it gets splashed on his skin, where he breathes it in, swallows it in the air he breathes, right? So he is getting all of these toxins from his work. Now, you'll remember from studying anatomy and physiology that liver and pancreas have to work together. Liver takes care of a lot of the detoxifying, but it also helps the pancreas to regulate blood sugars. And so we've got a lot of interwoven ideas happening here. Now, he also has very intense bouts of heartburn. And he can have really stinky gas, really stinky. So if he has a blood sugar imbalance, if these lacunae are also suggesting that there could be an issue with the way his pancreas is processing things, sugars, and the way his liver is helping his pancreas to process things, then there could be a blood sugar imbalance, which could lead to him holding on to a fungus, right? And it is highly likely in that case that the skin is simply the messenger. The problem isn't the skin. The problem is likely deeper. It's likely a fungus, likely from not processing his sugars properly. When we look at his stomach area, and I love what Charlotte says, probably low acid production, yes. When we look at his stomach area, it is not robust. So when he consumes protein, he doesn't digest it easily or completely. And that leads to the super stinky gas. But not breaking the proteins down completely means that those semi-digested proteins end up irritating the intestinal lining and opening up the tight junctions to create leaky gut. When we have leaky gut and we've got these chains of amino acids getting through to the blood and the lymph, the body sends out its own, or the blood sends out its own enzymes to try to break things down. And whenever you break amino acids apart, you release acid, making the blood more acidic, putting stress on the kidneys to clear the acid. And if they can't clear it, where does it go out? And again, putting stress on the liver to try to detoxify things. But if his phase 1, phase 2 detox aren't working completely, what's going to happen to them? So what we did with him, we added protein digestivate again. We want him to get proteins to balance his blood sugars. We want him to get proteins and digest them well so that we can begin reversing that whole chain we talked about. Now, he was also drinking coffee. My students, I've got a few students here, my students know my opinion on coffee. Not a good thing to do. There's no such thing as moderation with coffee. And so because of what it does to the stomach lining, to the liver, to the adrenals, to the bones, to the thyroid, yeah, no redeeming qualities. What it does to your B vitamins, yeah, Caroline goes, no, coffee, yeah, coffee is a bad thing. It really is. It really is. It is a bad thing. So we talked also with him about cutting out coffee. And I described to him the impact that coffee has on the stomach lining and on the liver. Then we needed to start building a program for him. We added parsley. It's a good little blood purifier and it adds a bit of support for the kidneys. We added omega-3, good anti-inflammatory. We added some dandelion tea. Now, I've got to get him off coffee. He likes his hot cup of whatever. Dandelion tea tastes a little bit like coffee, so I'm told. I've never tasted coffee, so I couldn't tell you. I know, I'm abnormal. And so we got him to use dandelion tea instead, which he was okay with. We also used zinc. Right? Zinc is key for the skin. It's a skin mineral as well as a lot of other things. I mean, you've got so many enzyme reactions in the body that require zinc. And we got him on N-acetylcysteine to help get that liver caught up on its phase 1, phase 2 detox. Over the next 4 weeks, his heartburn decreased significantly. He was a very happy camper, and his skin was starting to show signs of improvement. I tell my clients it takes 3 months to lay a foundation and 1 month for every year they've had the problem. And so, for us to see any type of improvement in 1 month when he's had the problem for 10 months, I would expect at least 4 months to get some decent results, but he was getting results pretty quickly. So remember, the polyglandular here is just one layer of information. Did you notice that? Did you notice it was one layer? We need all of the layers. We've got to consider that base constitution. We've got to consider his structural subtypes, his constitutional subtypes. Then are there markings in the iris and or in the sclera that would give us more information about what is going on? Now, when we say information about what is going on, these markings are not going to change. We're not going to cleanse that pigment out. We're not going to fast this lacuna away. We're not changing what we see in the iris because this is his genetic structure. I like to think of the iris as the epigenetics, right? It shows us where the strengths and weaknesses are. And just like with epigenetics, if we do something that's not good, we might turn a gene on or off, and that might create a negative symptom. If we do something that's really wonderful, we might turn a gene on or off, and that might create really fantastic results. So how we look at the eye, we need to think of it as epigenes. It's showing us what the possibilities are. That's why we need to know what the symptoms are, what the diet is, what the lifestyle is, and then put it all together to ask questions so that we can understand what do we need to do to turn certain genes on and certain genes off. What do we need to do to get a different answer, to get a different result? Does that make sense? Is that making sense for you? If it is, give me a big fat yes in the comments box. So now that I've shared some eyes, I've got more eyes to share with you. Want to take a minute to just introduce myself. I love what Charlotte says. It's incredibly amazing in my opinion, and helps better care for clients. Absolutely better care for clients. That's what we're after here. We're not after something that's going to take hours and hours and hours for us to sort through all these test results and all this information and stuff. We want to be able to assess our clients quickly and accurately, and Iridology can help us to do that, right? So effective when we know how to do it. So my name is Judith Cobb, and I am a holistic health practitioner. I have been in this industry since 1979. You do the math. You can figure out maybe how old I am from that. I don't know. I started clinical work in 1981, and I've studied Iridology under 8 different instructors, 3 different styles. I am one of, last time I checked, only 10 level 3 IPA certified Iridology instructors in the world. Level 3 is the highest level so far. I was one of the first 3 to certify because I just love this. I just love working with clients, and I love teaching Iridology. I love teaching Iridology to health professionals. Over those many years that I've been a health coach, a wellness coach, I've written many books. They are all out of print because they were all self-published and self-distributed. Maybe I'll start rewriting them, but not likely. The only one that's not out of print actually is the Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology textbook. And that's the book we use in the Dynamic Iridology course, but it's not available in hard copy. It's available to my students as a digital download. Charlotte says, I can tell you love what you do and it makes such a big difference. I can't wait to start the classes. Yes. So good. Can't wait to have you in the course, Charlotte. Way to go. And so I've also designed and taught a lot of classes over the years, herbology classes for general people and for practitioners. I've taught biokinesiology and color therapy. For a few years, I was a certified prenatal educator. I still love doing pregnancy work. That's some of my favorite. In fact, I'm kind of waiting for a call from one of my clients who is due any day now to tell me she's had her baby. And I also love teaching Iridology. So the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System course is the equivalent of what IPA calls level 1 and level 2. IPA is the International Iridology Practitioners Association, right? And they offer certification exams for people who want to become certified. And so my course, Dynamic Iridology, meets all the requirements and is approved by them as level 1 and level 2, right? I just don't want to split it up because I don't want people dropping out after level 1 thinking they know what they need to know to do Iridology. I want them to be locked in to learn the whole thing so they can really do Iridology well. So we'll talk a little bit more about the course at the end of our class. I am also a master herbalist and a natural nutrition clinical practitioner affiliated with these professional organizations. And just a little plug, gentle plug here for the next Dynamic Iridology course. We'll be starting on September 11th. I'm going to give you more information about that in a minute. Just a little bug in the back of your brain kind of thing. I only teach students who have a college level anatomy and physiology course already completed with a grade over 80%. And that's because it is a requirement from IPA as well, that you have to have that before you can certify. But what I've found over the years of teaching is students who do not have that level of understanding of the body do not learn Iridology easily. At least not at the level that I teach it at. You've got to understand the body really well in order to learn Iridology at a clinical level. This is what one of my graduates said, Elaine Hedden. She's a holistic physiotherapist. I'm a holistic physical therapist and have wanted to study Iridology for years, but just couldn't find the right instructor or school. Judith Cobb's Iridology course has been the perfect fit. The caliber and organization of her coursework is professional. Her depth and breadth of knowledge of iridology, herbals, nutrition, and pathology is beyond most instructors and even some university professors. If you are a health professional wanting to expand your scope of practice by learning about the most up-to-date information on iridology, take the 20-week level 1 and 2 or dynamic iridology class from Judith, worth every penny and every minute. All right, so let's pop in and take a look at another client. So this is a client. She's been with me for about 25 years now. And they come in for a few sessions, you know, a month apart, 3 or 4 or 5 sessions. We get them feeling good. They fade off because they're feeling good. And then they start to forget what we taught them, or they're just getting older and things are shifting. And then they'll come back in for a few appointments, right? So she's on a coming back phase right now. And when she came in, she was concerned that she had gained about 15 pounds and she didn't want to have that weight. She's in her late 50s. She's got 2 adult boys who still live with her. They're in their early 20s. And, you know, as we're looking at her eyes, and she knows what she needs to do, right? We've worked before. We've worked through all this before. I worked to help her get ready to get pregnant with her boys. She knows what to do. She's just forgotten it. She just needs some love. She needs some love and some encouragement, right? There's a family history of type 2 diabetes. And so she's coming in having gained this weight, and she was absolutely mortified that her most recent lab tests showed her hemoglobin A1C is elevated. Her cholesterol is also elevated, and she is in that pre-diabetic category. Her father was diabetic as well, and she's not happy about this. So as I look at her eyes, what I see is she's got a couple of things going on here. Well, several things. First off, she does have lacunae attached to the collarette. She's also got lacunae not attached to the collarette, and her fiber structure outside of the lacunae is very messy and tangled. So she's got the polyglandular, but she's also what we consider to be connective tissue. So we know we've got some other things that we're going to need to deal with along the way. But we've also got this white ring. She is too young to be doing this. This is not in the iris. This is in the sclera. This tells us liver enzymes have been out of balance for some time, and her liver is not handling her carbs properly. When the liver doesn't handle carbs properly, it goes one of 2 ways, and it can actually go both ways at the same time. It can send those carbs into cholesterol and triglycerides, or it can send her into insulin resistance. And in her case, it's done both. That means we've got a lot of work to do. Now, she's had a lot of stress in her life, was married to a fellow who was great for a few years and then turned out to be not the best match. So they divorced. She's been supporting the boys pretty much on her own because her husband kind of isn't the best even with supporting the boys. And so it's a really difficult situation. Lots of stress. She was in a high stress job. It was paying really well, but it was killing her, and she knew it. She got into some very bad habits of coffee for breakfast, coffee for lunch. Have we heard this somewhere before? And whatever she could throw together for the boys at supper time, right? Which was usually pasta, because it's quick and easy and it fills the boys when they've got teenage-sized stomachs, right? Well, she was eating the same thing. Not the kind of diet someone with the predisposition towards insulin resistance should be consuming. And so what we've started to do with her, Charlotte says, diet, hormones, activity, self-care to reduce stress. Yeah, all of the above, absolutely. What we've had to do with her is move very slowly and very gently. And I say that because she's got some ingrained beliefs. And don't we all? Don't we all? And we are having to reteach her that she is worth it. That whatever effort she makes to improve her diet, she is worth it. She is worth loving. She is lovable. She is a wonderful human being. She belongs here. She has a place. She is valuable. We're really working with trying to working to instill new beliefs. So you have to do it gently, right? So we've started with, rather than taking things away, can we add something in? Can we start with some protein at breakfast time? Could you make some egg bites? Make a batch of egg bites on Sunday, store them in the freezer so that you don't have to take time to food prep in the morning before you go to work. Could we get you to do that? Could we get you to replace 1 cup of coffee with 1 cup of dandelion tea? Right? Gentle, gentle, tiny little starts. And that's where we're at. Could we get you to do a 20-minute walk every day? I don't care how fast, I don't care how far, just some movement, some gentle movement. She also has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which means her body doesn't repair collagen well. So I'm not going to send her to the gym to start pushing heavy weights. I'm going to get her doing gentle things. Could she do some Tai Chi? Could she do some gentle yoga, some restorative yoga? I want her moving gently until we get her strengthened up, right? And so where the hormones are coming in is that type 2, right? Building towards being diabetic. We needed to start with the protein. We needed to start with some protein digestive aid. We needed to start just very gently swapping out something harmful like the coffee for something beneficial like the dandelion. Right? We needed to go ever so gently. So we're seeing some progress. She's getting better at having protein at breakfast. She's getting better at drinking something instead of coffee, something healthy, a herbal tea or hot water with a squeeze of lemon, something healthy instead of coffee. She's getting better at going for a gentle walk every day. And we're building it slowly because trying to build it quickly is not going to work for her. She needs a lot of what I call slow love, right? We just need to take our time while she's resetting her mind. For her, again, we're looking at pancreas, blood sugars, liver. And what I'm seeing is a lot more of that. That's a very common configuration. Here we have another client, female. She's 5'9", weighs 197 pounds. Notice she is also polyglandular, right? She's polyglandular. But the past 5 years, she's had constant bloating and gut pain. She finds she gains weight really easily. So my brain instantly goes, is she insulin resistant or does she have candida? She's in her early 40s, might be a little late for PCOS, but she's insulin resistant. Is she pushing towards PCOS? She also has frequent migraines, vertigo, and dizziness. Fibrocystic breasts, there's an indication that hormones have been out of balance. She has a yeast or a bladder infection just about every menstrual cycle. She's been diagnosed with hypothyroid and Raynaud's, and her bowels are sluggish. She has 1 bowel movement every 3 days without coffee. If she has coffee, she has 1 a day. Anyone know why coffee would possibly make her have a bowel movement? Why does coffee do that? I have a lot of clients that say it does. And you need to understand the chemistry of this so that as you gradually get the coffee pulled away, you've got the right things in place in their diet so that they don't get constipated, right? Any ideas why coffee would create a bowel movement? We're just going to let that question hang then. I'm not going to give you the answer this time around. Not so much a nerve stimulant, but Marie, that is a really good guess. A really good guess. It does stimulate something, but it's not stimulating the nerves. It does that it does stimulate nerves, but not in this particular case. Charlotte says, I know people that say it makes them go as well. I don't know the answer, but I will find out. LOL. Love that, Charlotte. I love that. Okay, so her symptoms are a whole lot broader than a simple hormone imbalance. Like, what we need to remember when we're talking about hormones, that is, if one hormone is out of balance, there's got to be a whole domino effect of hormones that are out of balance, right? Because they play off each other, right? If she had insulin resistance the way I suspected, then her endocrine system needs support to help her make headway with any and all of her problems. So the very first thing we did with her was we actually got her on a Candida program, a Candida diet. Now, the Candida diet that I use with my clients is very low carb, very high protein, and good fats. It is one of the fastest ways I have ever found to balance blood sugars. All right. So we got her on this program, and I keep my clients on it for a minimum of 6 weeks and sometimes up to 3 months. And so with that, what we found is she started to get results. So I'm just going to interject because Charlotte's posted again, stimulates colon contractions. Yeah, it does, but why? It doesn't do that directly. There's an intermediate thing. There's something else that it stimulates that then stimulates the colon. I'm getting pushy here. Gonna let it hang there and see where it goes. So with this client, again, we got her on this anti-candida program, which includes some supplements, and it's very, very strict with diet. But she had been good with doing strict diets in the past. She had tried everything under the sun except this. And when I saw her at the 6-week mark, she'd only had 1 headache since she started the program. So what does that tell you? Right? This was bringing her hormones into balance. Her energy was improving. I take my clients off coffee when they do the anti-candida program. And even without the coffee, I didn't add anything in. I gave her a backup plan, a herbal formula in case she started to get sluggish with her bowels, but the anti-candida program kept her bowels functioning well. She had no bloating. The bloating was gone. That's often a symptom of candida, right? She had no cravings. They always crave for about the first 4 or 5 days, and then we get things going. And she had started to work out again. And because we got rid of the yeast, she had no more bladder issues. Oh, Carol Ann asks, is it because the release of gastrin from the stomach? Nope, not quite. Not quite. I know I'm being mean. Let's see where we end up. This is what another one of my grads said. This is actually Anita. And she is one of my certified grads. She was helping me at a trade show one day, and she was so good, so good. I love it when my students and my grads want to come and work with me in a trade show, because we do a lot of mini iris assessments, and they get good experience working with the public. So this is what she said. I asked her how being certified and how the course had helped her, and what the certification meant to her and stuff like that. She said this about the course. One significant observation: the way the class is laid out and taught, and the way I chose to keep engaged and caught up. She was always on time with assignments. I have retained significantly more than I have in other classes I have taken. Feel free to use this in part, or whole or revised in any of your marketing. So that is so good, so good. All right. I will give you the answer to that question right before we sign off today. Okay, I won't just leave you hanging, I promise. Time for a little tiny commercial. The next go round of dynamic iridology will be starting on September 11th. Basic information is available right here. And so you can either grab that link, or if you are into QR codes, you can scan that QR code. And actually, there's the link in the chat box for you. And that will give you more information. I'll give you a tiny bit of information today. But the other thing is that next Tuesday, instead of doing a mini class like we've done today, we're going to do a live info session, and it's going to be about the course. We're going to do some iridology in that as well. We're going to talk about why holistic health practitioners need constitutional iridology in their work, why, how it will help them, how it will benefit their clients, all the good things that iridology can do for you and your clients in your practice. And so that is happening next week, Tuesday, August 27th. And I'm just trying to grab this. Oh my goodness, it doesn't want me to grab it. Let me grab it here. And there we go. There's the link, or you can grab this other QR code to get signed up for that meeting. Charlotte, congratulations. What I'm really looking for there was it stimulates the bile. Coffee stimulates the gallbladder to do, it sort of tickles the liver, stimulates the gallbladder to go squirt, release the bile. Bile is a natural laxative. Good job, Charlotte. You are good at doing research. So good to see. Whew. Okay. So Dynamic Iridology Assessment System is the only live, online, fully mentored course for nutritionists, herbalists, naturopaths, anyone who's got that college level anatomy and physiology course already under their belt, who want to streamline their clinical work without sacrificing client care. Clients come to us because of the care we take. And sometimes that means our appointments get a little bit too long, and that's draining for us. It also limits the number of people we can work with in a day, right? And so if we can help you to streamline your assessment and your program creation work without sacrificing any of the client care that you give, that you want to give, that you love giving, that your clients want from you, that's what I'm going to teach you in dynamic iridology, because we don't want you spending your own overtime, unpaid time creating programs. We don't want you to create programs that make your clients feel like they could never do that, because if they feel that way, they'll never start. When you can create these succinct programs that are focused, that are targeted, that are directed at their issues, it'll increase their compliance and it will build long-term retention. I've got clients that have now been with me for 44 years. Right? Charlotte says, thanks for making me work for it, LOL. You will never forget that one now, will you, Charlotte? That is permanently emblazoned in your memory. So the goal of dynamic iridology is to teach you constitutional iridology. There's several styles of iridology. Constitutional is the most effective one in clinical work, and how to use it confidently. No sense in learning it if you don't know how to use it, so that you can easily integrate what you already know about nutrition and herbology, or aromatherapy, or flower essences, or whatever modalities you've got, to confidently create doable client programs in your paid client sessions. That is the entire goal of the program. And again, lots more details for you about the program in our webinar that we're going to be doing next week, in our mini class that we're doing on Tuesday, August 27th. So there's those links and QR codes for you again. QR codes make life so much easier, don't they? And yeah, I'd love to see you at the Tuesday session to learn more about the course, to do some more iridology with me, to learn a little bit more about how you can integrate iridology into your clinical work. Marie Smith says, coffee produces more. Oh, that was an old comment. Sorry, Marie. Coffee produces more acid. It does. It makes you produce more acid, which may not be what we need, because it produces acid in the wrong place. It doesn't make you produce acid in the stomach, right? It makes you produce acid in the wrong place. And that will be a problem for 99.9% of the people who drink coffee. So there we have it. Any other questions? Hey, you've been great. Thank you so much for playing with me in the chat box today. That just makes it so much more fun for me when we've got interaction. And I know it's all about me. No, I'm just kidding. But you also get more out of it when you play with me in the chat box, right? When you're engaged. Any other questions for today's topic, or anything I can help you with? Give you just a few seconds to maybe give something there, and you can go ahead and again scan those codes, get registered for whichever one or get registered for the Tuesday. If you're just interested, even before Tuesday, learning more about the course, use this QR code right here on the left-hand side, and it'll give you some information as well. Thank you so much for being with me. I hope that was insightful. I hope you picked up something new, a new perspective. And Caroline is one of my students right now. Thank you. Always learn something new. So glad, Caroline. Thanks for making time to be with us. Charlotte says, thank you. Always learn something new. Brilliant. Love it. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And remember to like this, share it, drop a comment on the replay. Replay will be going out within 24 hours. So we will talk to you. We'll hopefully see you Tuesday, and have a brilliant week. Bye for now.